Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to Nectar, Sex, and Soul. I'm your host, Soraya Leonora, and I'm a holistic sex and relationship coach. This is a chance for us to get intimate, to reach far into the mystical, magical, erotic, tender, inspiring, vital, primordial depths of what it is to be human, what it is to express and inhabit these amazing bodies fully, and what it is to make love to the divine in everything we do. We'll be penetrating deeply into the nectar of what it is to be alive and turned on by life, how to transmute pain and hardship into pleasure and medicine, how to embody the union of polarities, including sex and spirit, and how to love every piece of ourselves wholeheartedly. This is a space where we don't just talk about the act of sex, but rather how sexual energy permeates every area of our lives as the seed of creation and the source from which we all came. Exploring sexuality in this way not only takes our sex lives to the next level, but is a catalyst for a life that turns us on in each and every moment, not just in the bedroom. Within you stirs a sexual vitality that is capable of so much more than you could possibly imagine. This is what we explore on Nectar, Sex, and Soul. Thanks for coming to play. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Nectar, Sex, and Soul. This is Soraya. I am so excited to drop into one of my favorite topics with you all today. And I'm just going to do a short, sweet, potent episode on this. And it's the topic of non-ejaculatory multiple orgasms for men and how these are vastly different than just simply not coming or edging. I want to clear a lot of misconceptions here because this is a completely different thing that I'm talking about that takes this to a whole other level. And I get a lot of confusion and questions around this topic. This is a topic that I've specialized in teaching men for a long time. And so we're going to be talking about what these even are, how they're possible, because a lot of you might be like, what the hell is that? Is that even possible? I've never heard of that before. So we're going to talk about what it is, how it works, why you would want to learn how to do this, and all the ways that it can change your life. It's truly a way that you can expand your horizons and your experience of pleasure as a man. And so many men have expressed something along the lines of, oh, I wish I could be multi-orgasmic like women. And you truly can. So I'm going to break all of this down today, as well as some of the misconceptions, and give you a really clear picture as to how this works and a really clear pathway to how you can learn this if this is something you're curious about. So if you are curious, stay till the end. I'm going to have a really special offer for you and a way to get into this work in a very accessible way. All right, so first things first, what is a non-ejaculatory orgasm? I'm going to be referring to these as NEOs as an acronym because it's easier to say. So if I say NEO, you know I'm referring to non-ejaculatory orgasm. So we can have singular NEOs, we can have multiple NEOs, we can have NEOs that become this long-lasting, full-body orgasmic state where you can't actually differentiate them between one another. This state can last for minutes to even hours. So this is a serious, really incredible orgasmic state that is possible through intentionally separating orgasm and ejaculation. So let's unpack that first. Orgasm and ejaculation are actually two separate functions. Most people are not aware of this because they happen within milliseconds of one another and they seem like they're happening at the same time, and they usually happen at the same time. However, some of you have probably had the experience of ejaculating without having an orgasm, and some of you have probably had the experience of orgasming without ejaculating and wondering how you tapped into that. Sometimes men do tap into this kind of accidentally on their own, and they often wonder, what was that and how do I get back to that? So essentially, an NEO is a completely different type of orgasm where instead of your sexual energy shooting out of your cock through ejaculation, you are retaining your semen and your sexual energy and circulating that orgasmic energy throughout your entire body. So this can lead to a full body orgasm where instead of it being localized to your genitals and feeling this pressure where it needs to escape, you're actually moving it through your whole body in a way that you feel full body pleasure. This can be rolling waves that last for a long time, like I said, and it's not going to have that same explosive feeling like an ejaculatory orgasm because it's implosive. So it's a very different type of experience than you're used to. And I find that so many men are so in love with this experience once they get it down that they don't feel like they're missing something with ejaculation. This is one of the misconceptions, is that men think that they're having to give up ejaculation, and that's not what it is at all. You are expanding your repertoire. You are tapping into a whole new type of experience that you're going to love so much that it's not going to be like, oh, but I wish I ejaculated. It's just that you have ejaculation as another type of option, but you're probably going to love the full body experience in a way that you never knew was possible. So one of the ways I like to look at this is in women, we have the clitoral orgasm. And I really liken that to the ejaculatory orgasm for men. Both of these orgasms can have this kind of sharp, explosive peak where it's an intense orgasm, it doesn't last super long, and you're usually hypersensitive after and need a minute to have that refractory period before you can continue going. Otherwise, it's too intense. For women, it manifests more so as it's too intense and they need to chill for a minute. For men, it's often going to be that you lose your erection and that takes some time to regain. And then we also have the G-spot orgasm for women, which I liken to a prostate orgasm for men. The female G-spot and the male prostate are made out of very similar material. They excrete very similar fluid, and both of them are kind of these deeper, more emotionally cathartic orgasms that can take a bit more opening to get to. We can't even find a woman's G-spot when she's not fully aroused, and getting to a man's prostate when he's not aroused is going to be very painful. So they're a bit deeper in. Then I liken the female cervical orgasm to the male non-ejaculatory orgasm. So these are both orgasms that are typically more challenging to tap into, and they require an enormous amount of surrender and openness and connection. And both of them can have these really deliciously spiritual, full body, even transcendent qualities to them. And the cervical orgasm is often seen as like the queen orgasm for women. And the non-ejaculatory orgasm is often not even known about to men, but it is definitely a facet of cultivating sexual mastery. And these are the two most elusive types of orgasms to most people, because most people don't even know they exist. Most medical science does not know that they exist, or that the cervix is even a sexual organ. We could go on and on about this topic, but I'm not going to go there. But these are very incredible types of experiences. And I don't want us to look at these as any sort of hierarchy. None of these are better than the others. They are just different. They're different flavors, different expressions of sexual pleasure and expansion. And it's really fun to get to play with all of them. We also don't want to treat them like a goal that we're trying to hit. We don't want to chase them down and try to make them happen, because you've heard me talk before about sexual energy being very elusive, especially orgasm. It's like cats, right? They don't want to be pinned down. They want to be coaxed and allured and invited. So if we make one of these a goal, we might have the opposite effect where we repel it, where we chase it away. So let's explore why we would want to learn to have non-ejaculatory orgasms. First one is that it increases and expands your capacity for pleasure in such an incredible way that is almost hard to believe. It's truly ineffable and just very difficult to describe until you've experienced it. But it's an incredible experience to have and to witness, speaking from a woman's perspective. So you get to have this totally new type of experience. Secondly, it's an incredible way to improve stamina, because once you learn to cultivate ejaculatory choice, where you're able to choose when and if you ejaculate, this is what makes premature ejaculation a thing of the past. You have a deep relationship, a deep dialogue with your sexual energy to where you can really guide and direct it and be more at choice as to how it behaves. So it's no longer this erratic or elusive energy, but rather you're very much at choice as to when and if you ejaculate. So when you become multi-orgasmic, you can literally have sex as long as you want. It's going to be getting tired or needing a snack or needing to go pee that finally brings your lovemaking session to an end, or at least to a pause, rather than needing to ejaculate and not being able to withhold that. Part of the reason for this is that you do not lose your erection after your non-ejaculatory orgasm. There's no refractory period. So you can literally just keep going rather than having to take that pause to regain your erection. So this truly can lead to indefinite stamina until you just decide you're complete. And that's another thing people ask is, well, how do you know when you're complete? And I think so much of society has treated male ejaculation as the exclamation point that ends sex. It's like the grand finale. And that's very unfulfilling for some people, especially if it comes too soon. And it also can just lead to a very linear, routine way of having sex. If you've listened to my previous episodes, you've heard me say that the tantrikas do not see orgasm as the point or the goal of sex. It's more just a potential byproduct. There's no attachment to whether or not it happens, and it does not determine the success of your sex. So when we stop getting hung up on the ejaculation or the orgasm signifying the end or the completion of sex, it expands our horizons to get a lot more creative and to really tune in with one another. So when people ask, well, how do you know when sex is done? It's like, well, how do you know when the day is done? When it's time to go to sleep at night? How do you know when a dance is done or when a piece of music is done? If you're jamming on an instrument with people, or you're sharing a dance with somebody, or you're working on a piece of art, how do you know when it's done? It's the same thing. It's just tuning in to that intuitive sense of completion. There doesn't have to be this big bang at the end of it that ends it. And if you think about it, most stories, most movies, most pieces of music do not end on the loudest note, right? They typically taper back down and round out to a sense of completion. So we can explore these new ways of coming to a shared sense of completion with our lover, or if it's by ourselves, which for those of you who have been taking my Self-Pleasure for Mastery course for men, or who have done any sort of work with me at all, we talk a lot about not chasing ejaculation as the point of masturbation and coming to that more natural point of completion. So that was a little bit of a tangent, but let's come back to the why behind NEOs. So we talked about how it expands and prolongs your pleasure. It increases stamina. So both of these things are also going to be amazing for your lover. It's truly an amazing thing to not have to worry about stamina getting in the way of an incredible experience. And it's truly an incredible thing for your lover to witness you having an NEO and to be a part of helping create that experience for you. Third is that learning to have NEOs drastically increases your vitality, focus, mental clarity, creativity, productivity. There are truly so many benefits that fall under this umbrella. Why is this the case? So when you ejaculate, you release enough sperm to populate all of Los Angeles. That is crazy when you think about it. You're releasing an enormous amount of life force energy, or what the Taoists call Jing, which is like your base, raw sexual essence. So if you think about it, this is the energy that you create life with. You have the capacity to create another human being with your ejaculation, which is wild to think about. And most men are just flushing this energy down the toilet without even thinking twice about it. The other thing that happens is your body also releases prolactin, which is the hormone that is responsible for the ejaculatory hangover, where you might feel tired or brain fogged or disconnected from your partner or less motivated after you ejaculate. Some men experience the effects of the ejaculatory hangover much more than others, and there are many things that play into this. The fulfillment of the experience, was it intentional? Was it compulsive? Was it just something you were doing to fill a void or to distract yourself? All of these will play into it, as well as your vitality, your age, and so many other things. So you also release a bunch of serotonin, dopamine, and oxytocin. So your system gets flooded, and the prolactin is the big one that's responsible for that feeling of the ejaculatory hangover. So if you've ever wondered why you feel the way you do after ejaculation, this and the loss of Jing is why. Some men don't actually notice how much this is affecting them until they start working with seminal retention and cultivating non-ejaculatory orgasms. So they've been operating at a baseline that they didn't even realize was robbing them of so much energy and mental clarity. So usually when you ejaculate, your intention is not to create life. So we don't always want to be spilling that life force when that's not our intention. It's not that we can't ever ejaculate when we're not trying to create life, but we don't want to have that as our only option, because over time, this will start to diminish vitality. So the Taoists actually believe that the older you get, the least you should ejaculate, because you don't want to continue letting go of that energy. You need that energy to feed your vitality. And when you look at the fact that women go through menopause, I see it as very similar. You're getting past that age of childbearing. You don't need to continue bleeding and losing energy. So women lose energy when they shed their egg. That's how they create life. So they don't lose energy in the same way when they orgasm. They can still lose some energy through certain types of orgasms, but it's not to the same extent as men. So when you see women get tired or feel kind of more low energy when they're bleeding, this is kind of similar to what's happening for men when they let go of their seed. And I often have men come to me in their 40s, 50s, 60s who are starting to experience issues with their sexual energy, whether that is having a hard time maintaining erections or struggling with premature ejaculation or anorgasmia, not being able to orgasm. And a lot of times, these are tied to the body not wanting to continue releasing seed because it's wanting to conserve energy. So it's particularly important for men as they start to approach close to age 40, but I see it as really important to start as soon as you can, because then you're just revitalizing your system and nurturing your vitality rather than expelling it from your system. And when you ejaculate, you are signaling to your body that your job is done for the day. So your biological impulse to procreate gets the message that you've done your job for the day and you can just kick back. Sometimes that's the case and you can just roll over and go to sleep. Sometimes you have shit to do, right? And this energy, this sexual energy that builds up in you as a man, is the element of fire, according to the Taoists. And this is your yang, masculine, directive, get shit done energy. And so if you deplete yourself of that, you have less of that yang edge to propel you forward, to have the discipline to accomplish all that you're desiring to accomplish in a day. There's absolutely a time for being more yin and emptying yourself of that energy, but it's usually not going to put wind in your sails to ejaculate in the morning when you're trying to be a high achiever that day. So what happens is when you start retaining your seed and learning to circulate it through your system, and there's an important distinction here that I'm going to get to in just a minute, is that you start feeling so much more energy and vitality, mental clarity, greater ability to focus. As this goes on, you might feel greater creativity, productivity. People around you might start noticing that you feel more radiant. You're working with your life force in a totally different way rather than depleting it. You're building and nurturing and circulating it. So it has a profound effect on every area of your life. You're going to feel more confident, more courageous in taking risks, more motivated, greater discipline. All the energy that gets leaked when you regularly ejaculate is now available to be channeled into other areas of your life. So it's really not uncommon after having a non-ejaculatory orgasm to feel inspired to go do something creative or go tackle your project after. It's going to feed whatever your ambitions are. So here's one of the important distinctions that I want to make, and I want to unpack some of the misconceptions around NEOs. This is very different than simply edging, which is where you have sex or masturbate up until your edge, where you think you're going to come and then you just back away and you choose not to come. Very different than just edging or not coming. You are not refraining from orgasm, and you're not just simply retaining your seed. So I talk about seminal retention a lot, but I don't always love the term. Another way you could phrase it is sublimation or sexual transmutation, where you're taking it a whole other step and integrating the sexual energy so that it doesn't build up and overflow or stagnate or become repressed. Because we've talked before how sexual energy, it needs to flow. Otherwise, it can get all this back pressure and become explosive, or it can be like this yucky, mucky swamp. And that's not what we're going for. So we need to be engaging it. Very different than just, oh, I'm not going to have sex, I'm not going to masturbate, or I'm just not going to come. You're not giving anything up in this experience. You're not choosing to refrain from something without replacing it with another experience. So if you were to just stop yourself and not ejaculate, that energy is going to get pent up and you're not going to have this super pleasurable experience that I talk about. You might get some of the benefits of seminal retention of feeling these greater energy levels and things like this, but if the energy is not being integrated, it's going to start being distracting. You might find yourself thinking about sex all the time or feeling really sexually frustrated. And this is not supposed to happen in what I'm talking about. If you're transmuting the sexual energy and you're moving into the realm of non-ejaculatory orgasms, or you're just simply transmuting it after. So there are practices you can do after choosing to not ejaculate to integrate the energy. But if you're not integrating it, it can have negative side effects. And we also don't want to jump from 0 to 100 with this, because if your body's used to ejaculating a certain frequency and then you just stop cold turkey, your body is still producing all this sperm at the rate that it's used to for your previous ejaculatory frequency. So we always want to ease into this, and most things go better that way. If we try to jump headfirst into a really rigid diet or exercise routine, it's usually not going to go that well. The mind and the body rebel against such rapid, fast change. It's great to ease our way into it layer by layer. So just repeating myself one more time, if you are just simply refraining from ejaculation and you're not integrating and transmuting that energy and moving into the realm of non-ejaculatory orgasm, where you are very discernibly having a full body orgasm. This isn't like, I'm not really sure if I am or not. You will know. If this is not what's happening for you, you're not doing what I'm talking about. You're just simply refraining from ejaculating. So two very different things. We're taking it a huge step further. It is true that when you start learning non-ejaculatory orgasm, sometimes the first ones will be very subtle or underwhelming. And you might be like, wait, really? This is what everyone's raving about? This isn't really what it's all cracked up to be. Or did I do it? I can't really tell. In the beginning, that can be the case. And as you become more fluent and second nature, it starts to build on itself and become a really incredible experience that you don't have to think about so much. Those pathways become ingrained, they become second nature, and the energy can naturally flow that way once you've established that language with your body. And so it's just like any other skill. You have to practice. You need patience, persistence, and practice. So if you've ever learned a sport or an instrument or a language, it's just like this, where it's going to take showing up to it and carving those new neural pathways. Another misconception that I want to unpack is a lot of men tell me that their girlfriend or their lover is upset if they don't ejaculate, and that they feel like sex wasn't satisfying to them, or they did something wrong, or they're not turned on, or something like this. So a few reasons why this could happen. That circles back to one, that culturally we've really equated ejaculation with the finale of sex. So rewiring that. Two, a lot of people have their self-worth tied up in making their partner come, rather than focusing on connection and mutual satisfaction, however that wants to express. So if you think that sex was unsuccessful because your partner didn't have a specific response and that means something negative about you, that's work that you have to do within yourself. We don't want to tie up our self-worth in that. And then thirdly is, like I said, there's a huge difference between not coming and having non-ejaculatory orgasms. So I can promise you that having an NEO will not leave your partner questioning if you were satisfied at all. It will be very, very obvious that you just had a more amazing time than maybe anything they've ever seen. It's very satisfying to be on the other end of. So there won't be any question about, did you enjoy that, or is something wrong, or why are you not coming? Because again, it's not that you're skipping out on orgasm. You're having a completely different type of orgasm, which will be very obvious to your lover. So becoming multi-orgasmic and tapping into NEOs is truly a win-win situation for you and your lover. And then the last benefit that I will speak to, which again, disclaimer here, I am not a doctor. This is not medical advice. Please use this at your own discretion. I am not to be held liable for any of this. But if you listened to my last episode with Elsa Earle, we talked about cultivating reproductive sovereignty, and seminal retention is the component that men are to take self-responsibility for if you want to naturally prevent pregnancy without contraceptives. So I have worked with fertility awareness method for myself, and my partner has worked with seminal retention. I've not used contraceptives for around a decade, and I've had no unwanted pregnancies. So this is what has worked for me. I know many other people it works for. You want to be highly skilled in this to rely on it entirely, and you want to have a backup plan. And while you're learning it, you want to use condoms so that you're not having so much at stake if you accidentally slip. But always really important to have a backup option and to be pairing it with other methods like fertility awareness method, like understanding the lunar ovulation, like working with herbs. All of this was described in great depth in my previous episode, Cultivating Reproductive Sovereignty as a Team Effort. So I really, really see this as a team effort. Pregnancy prevention is not something that should be put on just women. So men, if you want to do your part, if you want to step up and really rewrite the story that we've been living for so long, where women have been the ones that have had to put painful things in their bodies and go through really challenging procedures like abortions in order to prevent unwanted pregnancies, this is a really amazing way to do that will transform your life in such an incredible way and will also allow you to play your part. So in support of that, in honor of my intention to help people cultivate reproductive sovereignty and to be at choice as to when and if they create life, because this is our body's innate intelligence. We hold the capacity to be at choice as to when and if we create life. It's not just something that totally happens by accident, that we need these external technologies to prevent. That is a myth, and we hold that wisdom within. So if you want to learn that, if you're excited to become multi-orgasmic, to experience these new states of pleasure, to have infinite stamina, and to have this increased vitality and mental clarity and creativity and productivity and all these beautiful benefits that come with this, I'm offering my signature course, Multiorgasmic Vitality for Men, for 40% off until July 22nd. So if you're listening to this on the day the podcast came out, that's just a few days from now. I've been running this sale since the overturn of Roe versus Wade. So hop on it now. I will not be offering this steep of a discount again. This is really in support of encouraging the change that I wish to see, and I want this to be accessible. So if you're desiring to learn this, hop on it now. There are payment plans available, and you can use the code MyBodyMyChoice. That will be in the show notes. The link to the course will be in the show notes. And it's an incredible 6-week course that dives into the deepest depths in a very multifaceted way as to how to cultivate non-ejaculatory orgasms, become multi-orgasmic, transmute the energy into other areas of your life. And we go very deep. As always, it's a very holistic approach with me. It's going to touch on areas of life that you wouldn't expect it to. I always receive the feedback that my courses go so much deeper than anyone expected, and that people got so much out of them in ways they would have never imagined. So when you go on a journey with me, we're really going all in, and you're going to receive so many precious gifts from it that you wouldn't have expected going into it. So this is my gift to you. Please hop on this if you're inspired. I'd love to hear your thoughts, your questions about this episode. So please do feel free to reach out to me on Instagram. It's Soraya_Leonara. You might have to type in my full name to find me. And please do share this episode with the men in your life and the women too. This is a really important thing for people to become aware of, to know is possible. The Tantrikas and the Taoists have been working with these practices for thousands of years. They are just very little known to mainstream society. So it's one of my missions to bring this to the mainstream world. I am so grateful for the ways that it's impacted my life. I absolutely love helping men tap into this. So please share this with somebody you love. And as always, please leave a rating or a review. If you receive value from this podcast, I invite you to reciprocate by spreading the word. Podcasting is an unpaid facet of my work. It's a labor of love. It's a devotion to spreading the word, and it really helps when you show your support through a rating or a review. So please take just a quick second to show some love, spread the word. If you're on Spotify, you can only do that on the app, and it needs to be updated. You'll see 5 stars on the main page of the podcast that you can click. And then if you're on Apple Podcasts, you can leave a review on there. So thank you so much for tuning in. I hope that this was incredibly beneficial to you. I look forward to seeing a bunch of you in Multiorgasmic Vitality. It's a self-paced course. It's all pre-recorded, and you can start whenever you want. You get to keep the material forever. So I look forward to seeing some of you enroll and accept the challenge of up-leveling in some pretty massive ways through the art of NEOs. All right, beloveds, have a beautiful day. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Ciao. Thank you so much for dropping into Nectar, Sex, and Soul with me today. It's been a pleasure to connect with you. If this episode lit you up or illuminated something impactful for you in some way, I invite you to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone you feel would love to hear it. To learn more about my work, check out sorayaleonara.com, sign up for my newsletter, and follow me on Instagram and YouTube, where I share tons of free content, special offers, and ensure you're the first to know about my new offerings. I offer private coaching as well as courses, workshops, and retreats, so be sure to stay in touch if you'd like to go deeper together. Thank you, loves. Have a gorgeous day. Ciao.